So we start repeating a little bit what we saw until now. We saw that there is a fundamental law of nature in which everything works as a channel. And a channel must have an entrance and an exit by definition. And the law governs that every channel needs to take, but it doesn't take for itself, but it gives it on. And we can see that in everything in nature. There is no exception to that. But also we have a spirit, as we have seen, that needs relationship, that needs love. And in order to make that clear to us, God gave us the two tables in which we know the one is to take and the other is to give. So you have two ends, the entrance and the exit. And if we are not aware that we have an entrance and an exit, we are very, very blind to ourselves. And this is why this simple law opened my eyes to see things that I could never see before. It helped me to understand that the human nature has two elements. It's a spiritual element and a physical one, the spirit and the body, and together they make the soul. And since the spirit guides the body, the spiritual food is love or information that is always bound to a person, and that has an entrance, and that is in the heart. So if you imagine the human being has a beginning in function, and that beginning in function is in the heart or at the entrance. So we have seen in these hours here that the body has many organs, and they're all connected to one organ, that is the brain, and they work in a circuit, because everything must work in a circuit. And there are thousands, or I don't know how many circuits we have in our own body, but they're all governed and are conducted from the cortex starting. But we have learned that the body can do nothing from itself, so it needs a power source. And the power source starts in the head. Yes? Our power to live is not in the stomach, it's not in the lungs, it's starting up here from the beginning when it gets into our cortex. And now the question is, from where does the power of the body come from? And we have seen it's from the human spirit. So the human spirit processes information, and according to that information that he processes, he makes the electrical impulse to the brain by which all power is conducted. Everything we speak, we do, we move is just the electrical impulse that governs it. And last night we have seen how we do that. And that we do subconsciously, not consciously. We are not aware how that is. And we saw last night that in the subconscious we have only two elements. We have two sides. That's the body, it's plus and minus. And in order to make the body the impulse, you need to switch an electron, and that the spirit does by a decision that he takes according to two categories, that is gain and loss. And he's set to say yes to the gain, and he must say no to loss. Yes makes the impulse, no stops it. That's how we make the power to our brain. By our decisions that we take in 4.5 milliseconds, and we take about 210 decisions per second. That's why when we measure the electricity in your brain, it's all the time those impulses. That's how fast it works. And it works as to the idea, is it a gain? I say yes. is the loss, I must say no. There is never a possibility to accept loss. So you can go to any psychological counseling and they will say, hey, you must accept that loss. It's impossible because the function doesn't allow it to ever say yes to loss. The only problem that can arise is that you can believe that something that is a gain is a loss, and then you won't do it. Or if you believe that something is a loss that is a gain, then you get confused. But whenever you consider something a loss, it is absolutely, you must say no. So we have two eyes that govern the whole process, and those are the identity about ourselves, and you have the right identity that you're a child of God or a creature of God, and the other one is you believe you're a God. This is all subconscious, it's not conscious. And we had no time last night because we had to go very fast to prove to you that we all believe we're gods. And we behave like that. Now I have some patients who deny that. They say, I never believe I'm a God. And then, since before I explain these things, I take the history of my patients, I can prove them on their own history and on their own sayings that they behave like gods. Because if they don't understand that, they don't know what to solve. Because you need to solve something that disturbs you, that lies to you, and that is this deception that gives or starts with giving, because if you're God, you know you have something, you give in order to receive. And whenever you don't receive, you get into trouble. And you see from this perspective, that you see yourself a God, believing that what others are doing matters for your gain and for your loss. You lose your no, because our disease appears through the loss of the no. As long as you can say no to loss, you cannot get sick. But when you cannot say no to the loss because you don't do it, it's your child that dies, or it's your whoever does anything wrong, and you believe it's your loss, it's your personal loss, then that causes the disease. Because disease is the result of a wrong belief that whatever losses you experience, that you take it personally as being your loss. Because if you're a God, your child is whom? It's yours. Can you let it die? No. Who then suffers when it happens? I had this, he's 48 years old when he came to my practice. He's a yes, when we exactly, and that is when we lose the no, because we must say no to loss. There is no option to say, oh yes, I can lose. It's not possible. Yeah, because if we could lose, we could never govern ourselves. Yeah, if you could lose, you could just say, oh, I go on the street and then jump in front of a car. It doesn't matter. You know, there would be never rules possible on everywhere. There would no rules, because what can you lose? I can lose nothing if I go on red on the intersection. Yeah? And so it's not possible. We need, it's an automatism, it's not a choice. Whatever we consider a loss, we must say no. And we only then get sick when we cannot say no to loss. But we must say no to loss. So this is a professor of biology, 48 years old, and he comes to my practice because he has depression. He's in a clinic close by, and the clinic had referred him to me because he had an ear infection on his left ear for 5 years. And this professor, so he has 2 years now, he's in depression, he's in burnout. He goes to this clinic to get, treated, and then they send him to me for his ear because his ear infection doesn't heal since 5 years. And of course, he is very welcome with me because I don't look just to his one thing, depression. The ear come 5 years before, and 1 year before, or actually when the ear infection started, or shortly before, he lost his sexual ability. So at the age of 43, he could not have any intimacy anymore because it didn't work anymore. Now, when a man loses his capacity for intimacy, is that a big loss or a small loss? Now, it's good that the man said it, but that's something that really is a big loss, and it must come from a big loss. And so I asked him about his history. And last night we thought, the greater the loss, the heavier the disease. You can go by it. So, or the greater you experience that loss, or you think about it, the greater it becomes in your body, physical. And here, what happened 9 years before, so 4 years before he got his disability, he lost his youngest daughter. He said, we have 4 children, and she was the last one. Was an angel, and she was selling cherries on the street. And in some places you sell cherries on the street. In Europe, when you pass by, you just stop and buy some cherries. And when the cherries were gone, she ran over the street to get new cherries, and the car hit her, and she died. And now, what do you think? Do men also have certain feelings? Yes or no? Yeah. So I asked him, how often does he think on his daughter? What was his answer? All the time. Do you think those thoughts are conscious or are willing thoughts, or they just come up? They only come up, yes. Because, you see, everything that we experience as a gain, we forget, because it's normal. Whatever what you lost, you can never forget. Because you must come out of the loss. The spirit wants to come out of the loss, but he doesn't see any exit for it. So that's why that forcing to coming out of the loss causes the wrong energy to the body and destroys it. So he's in deep sorrow, and when his sexual ability went away, his left ear is his relationship to his wife. So does he get in trouble? Yes. So, and when such a thing happened, to how many people do you give guilt? Well, you give it to you, but you also might give it to your wife, because why was she not paying attention, or whatever? You come up with so many things. If I just would have done this, it would have not happened like this. And you automatically consider yourself guilty. And guilt is very, very destroying. because it's the opposite of truth. Guilt is, why does guilt destroy? Because you have no option to get away from the loss. Guilt is a loss, yeah, and you don't see a way out. And even the Bible describes and says there is a sadness that comes from God that relieves you, that gives you a solution from what was a difficult situation. And there is a sadness of the world that destroys you. And that is the guilt, that's the sadness that gives you no solution. Every issue in your mind that gives you no solution is a lie. Because you only have no solution, and this is important to understand, because you try that which is impossible. So whenever you try the possible, you have a solution. But whenever you try the impossible, you have no solution. What does this man try to do in his mind? To make the death of his child to not be there anymore. Yes, he would like to resurrect her. I have patients that I asked them, I said, if you could resurrect your mom, would you resurrect her? And they say just, yes, of course. Yeah, because why would you do that? Why is this gentleman so bound to his daughter? What does he think? Because he believes unconsciously that his daughter is his, and there is an aspect that we will see is even more deeper, that his life, he believes, is dependent on his daughter. And now I said to him, before you had this fourth child, how did you feel? How do you feel before you have a child? It's so fine, okay. And now you have a child for 6 years. Is it a gain or a loss? But he considers it a loss. That's deception. Yeah? Because I said, you have lived before your daughter exists. Why now, after your daughter existed and passes away, your life now is ruined? And it doesn't matter if you're a professor of biology, it doesn't matter whatever you think about, you are ruined because you believe your life is dependent on your daughter. It's not a conscious belief. It's unconscious. So, this gentleman will finally die on his own thoughts if he doesn't change it. Because there is a limit, you know? The higher the loss becomes, then when you get into depression, then you get slowly the suicidal thoughts or whatever you get there. And sometimes, even if you don't die on suicide, then you may get a stroke or anything else. And it all comes because you believe something that is not true. And even if I told him, let's go back. Let's think the same way like you thought before you had a child, because you still were alive. Can you do it? It's not possible. Because in that subconscious place there we are, we really believe things that are never true. And if disease would have not appeared, I would have never believed it. Because the body is destroyed by this wrong belief that something is yours. And you think you lose it as a personal loss. While in reality, if you understand yourself that you're a creature, then you need first to take in order to give. And then not to give or to keep would be the loss. So you see, the one eye, the evil eye, the bad eye, the lie, tells you that your gain and your loss is dependent on others. And the truth says you that your gain and your loss is just dependent on what you do or not do. Which one do you like? It's all evident, the one that gives you the control. And wherever you have control, you cannot get sick. You always get the sickness when you lose control, but you lose control because you believe something that is not true. Because what gives us as reasonable being and as spirits the freedom is to have a free no. And if I can say no, to stop at the stoplight, will I have any anxiety? No, because I can stop. And so having a free no, health is there. So not all problems make us sick, but its sickness comes just from this one little idea that it is my personal loss. But why do I consider it my personal loss? And this is now that what we have to understand. The Bible says the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? And the deception of the heart is that you believe something about yourself that can never be the truth. But you have it, and we all have it, and I have to prove it to my patient. So the life of man is characterized by the fuel he uses. He was created to function with love. So that's the gas station of love, and the fuel can only be found at one gas station, that is God. And if we have access to that gas station, we can live very well, filling up and driving on. Filling up and driving on. Now, what is the human problem? I want to give you a short idea about love and selfishness. What is the difference between them? Because we are not aware that selfishness is a very, very good copy of love. And it would be $1 that you hardly could discern it from the wrong dollar. So that's why what we call today love actually is selfishness. It's just the ignorance that we don't know how it works because it's unconscious. Motivation is unconscious, so love has two elements, and it has maximum interest for the other. Looks like love, is it? If you have maximum interest for the other. Yeah? Now, selfishness has changed only one little word in this whole thing. It changed the for into in the other. For myself. And since it's unconscious, how do you know? So mothers, do they love their children? With real love or with selfish love? Oh, yeah, you are convinced that it's real love, but ask your children. They will tell you when they say, my mother loves me too much. Then you know. It's not love. It's the opposite of love. It's called love, but it's not love. So in the other means, I need you at the entrance of my spirit. For the other is I share it at the exit. Yeah? So we have an entrance and an exit. And in means I need you for myself. And for is I give it to you for free. I love you, but I don't need you. That's the right formula. But when we say, I love you, I cannot live without you, that is not love. Yeah? That is, you're the food of the other one. You know? But girls are very sensitive when a boy says, I love you, I cannot live without you, they melt. Believing, wow, he loves me, he cannot live without me. They don't know that he just looks to that being to eat it up. It becomes his food. So that's where also jealousy comes out. But you don't know it because it's subconscious. So how do you know that you have a real interest for the other or in the other? And you can only see it in a conflict, in a situation where things come and become conscious. In the moment you want to dominate over someone, you want to frighten him, you use fear. You cannot really manipulate, but you try. When you try to force someone, when you're angry on someone, then when you're conditioning, those are the obvious conscious signs that you have interest in the other, not for the other. I came across with many mothers to speak to, and to many children, because how many children have a mother? All of them. And I saw this on this many patients, that our mothers are almost always our destiny. Because we are not aware how much we are dependent on them and how much mother may trigger us. So we can only see that we have in the other person an interest when we are in the situation to lose it. Yeah? If I have for the other the interest, the proof for that is the other side of love. You give 100% freedom and respect to the other. And this is what we can never do. The person you live from, you must control. If you really love him, you let him go. She laughs. Because this is an impossibility for man. I tell you, we cannot love, we cannot let go that person we say we love. But if you cannot give the other person freedom to die or to let you alone or whatever they want to do to you, you prove that you're dependent on them and you have them. It's selfishness that wants to control their life. So this is why when Jesus went through all his temptations, he proved to be free and in the love of God because he allowed every evil thing to happen to him and he never protested against. And when we can do that, we are in love. When we still try to restrict others and control their lives, it's selfishness. Simple?
For their own good.
Yeah, of course. The intention is always good, but it's always for you. You see? Yes. Well, it's very simple. In that way that you don't force him to eat what you give him, or, there are a lot of, the freedom doesn't mean I don't protect someone. Freedom doesn't mean I respect your will. But we cannot respect our children's will. Yeah? Try it. You will see it's impossible because your life depends on that child. You think you'd want to do the good because it's always like that. But that's what you want to control, what you cannot control. When children when we want, or let's say this, a mother told me once, if I would have not forced my child to eat, it would have died. True or not true? Not true, because how does she know? But children protest if they, by example, they don't eat. Do they do that because they want or because they must? They must protest because they protest against what happens in the life of the mother or in the family. And then, of course, I've been in families, the child is 5 years old and the mother still one for mother, one for father, you know. So it's handicapped. But the child manipulates the mother because it knows mother wants me to eat. And I can just best control my mother if I don't eat. And she's my slave. So I was in other families, the child is 9 or 10 years old and comes to the desk, to the table and says, Mother, put me this in my plate and put me this and put me that. And since mother has a mother instinct, she does it because she likes to serve, because she likes to give, in order to receive. At least the child gets not angry on her. That's also some gain that mothers have. So, the hardest and the greatest challenge we ever will have in our lives is to allow that our loved ones do the wrong. And if we cannot do that, it's a problem. When we got our 6 foster children, family just left the children alone, and we had the luck to get them. That was the greatest luck we had in our lives. So I call it, not luck, it was providence. After my conversion, the children then were between 7 and 17 years old. But after my conversion in 2003, I prayed to God and I said, I made a covenant. I will do everything that my children and my wife should be saved. Until then, to let my life, to let down my life. And then about 2007, I realized that whenever I make a schedule with God, it works. And one morning, I don't know, that's how I speak with my Father in heaven, I said, I would schedule a meeting with you when we are going to be in heaven, with me and my family. All 6 children and my wife, so I thought, okay, if I schedule the meeting now, for sure it will take place. And when I asked that question, I got an idea as a response that says, are you also coming alone? What did I ask? What did I want for sure to know? Exactly. I want for sure to know they make it to heaven, so then I have no worries anymore. And realizing that my children were more important than God. Yes? And talking to God, opening my eyes, I said to him, make the appointment, I also come alone. So I have an appointment there. And I know that if I'm willing to go alone there, I might have them with me. But if I'm not willing to go alone there, I also won't be there. Because our children may be our destiny. Like our mothers or fathers or even spouses. But they're not so important than the children and our parents. You know why? Because they're not from the same blood. And so everything that's from the same blood and from your relative, it's more close to you than anything else. That's why when a married couple have children, what do they love more? Each one will love the child more than the couple. They're not aware of that because it's my child, my half, and the other half, Yes, and sometimes.
Yeah, exception.
Yes. Okay. So, selfishness also has a copy of freedom. It's the attempt to be indifferent, or to turn away, or to quit the relationship, but it never works. Because whenever you try to be indifferent and your child died, how much can you do that? Can you? There's no way. If someone abused you, if something you have experienced in your life that is a loss, you cannot be indifferent to it. You will carry it with you your whole life. So, selfishness is a lie. It comes from the lie that I'm a God. Love has divine origin because God is the only one who is independent. And He loves us for free. That is, He is not in need to have us because He's independent. And we only can love people with real love if we are independent spiritually on them. Then it's love. Then I can let my children get lost. If I want them to be saved by all means, I am wrong. So I want them to be saved. I will do everything for their salvation. But salvation is an individual thing, and it's an individual choice, and God respects that. And if God respects it, should I also respect it? Yes or no? Yes. So I'm learning that what God respects, I should also respect, but it's a hard thing. Because I want the good for others, especially for my patients, to be healthy. Do I? Of course. And so I need to hammer them the truth in their mind. I did many mistakes at the beginning in my practice. And I learned the most from women, because women are very decided beings. You should fear them. Because I was sitting once in front of a lady. She was, as an ENT, you have stuff in the back, and the right side and the left side, and in the middle you have the chair where you do the consulting. And now here I'm sitting, and the door is behind me. And here's my desk, and of course the room is not so big. And now instead of sitting on my desk and just leaving the line open to the door, I just come with my chair, it's on rolls, and you just sit like in front of this. And now you try to impose the good. Because you want to help people, aren't you? And they are so ignorant, so you need to. And after a few minutes, I don't know how long, I somehow passed the, the border, You never know when you pass that, so it's when you get too close, and she suddenly raises up, goes around me. There was enough space to just switch around me, and up to the door, and out she was. Did I learn my lesson? Oh, yes. So what do you think? Will the door always be free? Oh yes, I'm sitting so on the side so that the door is free, and I don't push anymore. Would you come to counseling? Because I wanted everyone to come for counseling to help them. Now I say, think a few days if you want to come, because it's your business, not my business. But you see, this is also in the religious world. We want to get all people to be saved by what? By force. And we don't know that that's exactly the opposite of how God is. Because heaven is a free place. And I like that. That's why I'm in love with this love, because I love freedom. And in heaven, no one will come to me and say, hey, maybe you do this like this. Is that nice? You're just left alone. I mean, you're and God. You don't need anyone to teach you. Yeah, that's the new covenant is that we will all be taught by God. So why would we need a human one to tell me, do this like this? Or no, we just are free to do whatever we want. So selfishness is of human origin, and that's what is a copy, and it always has a personal interest. So coming back to the origin. Could Adam and Eve live from the moment of their creation without having a relationship with God? No. The question is, how does the relationship happen? From whom does it start? From God or from the creation, from the creature? Now, does the water well come to you or you go to the water well? Are the apples falling in your mouth or you go to pick them up? How is it? So, that is why God has created the mechanism of the relationship with Him as an automatism. That means, in the moment of their existence, in the moment that Adam existed, he connected to God because God built in him a connection by which he did that totally unconscious and without the choice. He connected himself to God. Because there is no way to exist without being connected to the source of love and of life. Because love and life is the same. So this is how he created man. There is no choice to live without being connected. And we will go and see and prove that, because there is no device that can function without being connected to the power source. And since we live by love, not by energy, that's energy is produced by the information. That's why information is that what matters. So here I want to show how things work. The spirit is a channel. Yeah? So you see it's a, yeah? And the channel must have an entrance. Yes? A door, I call it. And that door is who you are, the I, as we saw last night. It's who you know you are. And since God gave that truth in the human spirit, that he is a creature of God, this is the link to the outside, you know? So the mouth is the outside to the ear, the nose, yeah? It's to the outside. And so the spirit, the identity, the door has, you know, one side is to the outside. And this door is at the same time the connection to God or to the love source. Because my nose is connected to nature, is it? Yeah? So I need to inhale. If I would not be connected, I could not assimilate or take in the things. So the connection, that's why I make it like a wire thing, you know, plug, yeah? And because it has two activities. Now we could speak a whole week. If we would have done the two churches together and speak a whole week, it would be better. Next time. So that we can expand a little bit on the things that matter. Because until now we just build up a little bit, but what matters comes now.
I had no choice because boss.
Exactly. I just, okay? So the plug, the spirit needs to do two actions in order to connect to God. The one is trust. Without trusting, there is never a connection possible. And that trust, God made to be automatic to him, but you don't live from trust. You know that? I take my bottle of water again. Can I drink without trust? Yes or no? It's not possible. There is no act that you can ever do that is not dependent on trust. So you need to understand, okay, I drink this because I believe, no, I know it, I need it. But I trust it is what? Water, and it will nourish me. Yeah? So trust does not feed us, but it's necessary in order that I should drink. So the trust in God does not feed us, but it's necessary that I can take the information, the word from Him in by faith, by believing it. So trust and faith, or trust and beliefs, goes automatic. They take in the info. Adam and Eve, or let's take Adam, he did not doubt God when he said, you were made to be king and you were made to do the job that you have done. He just trusted and believed and did it because he had the right identity. So this entrance in the Spirit is unconscious and involuntary. This is what we don't know because we believe it's a voluntary thing. Dependency is governed by law, and it can never be a choice. Whatever is governed by law can never be a choice. So that's why God made it to be an automatism. It functions automatically. And this identity, the door, if you live from God's word, how much evil can you ever do? It's impossible because out of love, imagine just the definition of love. Every one of us would have maximum interest for the other, but we would respect them to 100% whatever they do or say. Would there ever be a conflict? It would be excluded. You could never do wrong out of love. It's impossible. Out of the truth, you can never do anything wrong. That's why God created man perfectly. They were not able to do anything wrong the way they were created. And so at the exit, Adam had Eve. Yeah? So she was not at the entrance, but at the exit. Now some people, whenever you do marriages, you take the Bible verse that says it's not good that man should be alone. Poor guy. No? Why is it not good that he should be alone? Tell me. Pardon? He has no one to give love to? Yeah, that's a good idea. But why is it not good that he should be alone? Yes? Pardon? Yeah, but why? I mean, why? Let's see the why. Why? What do you need a wife as a man? To procreate, exactly. That's why a man will leave father and mother and will become one flesh, because they have to multiply. It's for the purpose of multiplication that he cannot be alone. Not that he cannot live alone, because he lived alone before she existed. He was alive. Of course, it's much more pleasure to share that love, because it goes also in our body, what we share, but he shared it with the animals. He could, you can give love to everyone. And now, in order to multiply, you cannot do it alone. And that's why that is. But we think it's because poor guy cannot live alone. Yes, it's nice to have a partner to work with, because Adam saw and he wanted that. So, but Eve is at the exit. Can he live without her?
No.
Of course he can. Of course he can. But in our deception, we believe he cannot. Yeah? So, I mean, there are many things that we cannot speak tonight. But this is how we were made. At the entrance is God. At the exit are all others. And that's nice, is it? So where are decisions? At the entrance or at the exit? Decisions are only at the exit because you must have an information to decide above before you can do it. So decisions are at the exit, not at the entrance. At the entrance is trust and faith. Yes, it's also a process of evaluation, but since you have the truth, you can have no one else and God there, and everything works fine. What happened with the fall into sin, like we call it? It is just a change of identity. He believed he can be someone he cannot be. Is that a rational thing or irrational? It's totally irrational. So can God give us a choice to be irrational? No. There is no choice to be irrational. Because irrational is just an impossibility. You can never have a choice to be, for the impossibility. Because you, as a creature, are limited. But if you would know your limits, you would become unlimited in all you do. But now, Adam believes he knows it better, and you can never sin except you believe you're a God. It's impossible. Yeah. So I could speak for a whole week for that, but just say this: he got this change of identity, and I can ask you, if someone comes today to you and tells you biologically he's a male, but he says, I'm a woman, can you get that out of his mind? Yes or no? No, because what you are in your mind, that you are. So this is where the difficulty comes. God made the Spirit to govern himself, but if he comes to an idea that is impossible, he cannot eradicate it from there, because it's inside. No, everything comes from inside. I mean, we take things from outside, but we react from inside. And those things that we come up with, these ideas that we are a God. As a God, you can choose how many things? Everything. You can choose your gender, you can choose this, you can choose by what you live. You're just a God. And you don't see your limits. That's why we try the impossible, because we try something that is impossible. I try to save my children. Is it possible or not? Not possible. To save your mother, to save your child, to save your wife. You want to help everyone? It's impossible, because that's our limit. We are individuals. But now Adam took that idea. It's a mystery how he got to that. But now that is now his door. And that door separates him from God, but it binds him automatically to trust Eve, Satan, and you live from that word, and you take that in, and everything you do now is wrong. Because out of a deception arises selfishness. And everything is done selfish is against the law, because everything in nature works unselfishly, not for itself. So he blocks his channel. Now things are there for himself. And now they multiply. And we all get that as an inheritance. And Now I want to explain that, what I saw in my practice. It's not difficult to understand, but we are in danger to make ourselves guilty. While there is no guilt. If you're born blind and you stumble, you don't see the stair and you hit yourself, are you guilty? No. If you have a blind child and it doesn't see an obstacle and it hurt itself, will you punish that child? Hey, I didn't see it. It's impossible. So we're all born blind, and that's why we need to understand the principle of function. I came and saw it in children at my practice, because all this I learned on first hand. I had no idea that we have a spiritual dependency. Have you ever heard about that? That we live from love unconsciously, and we all have a umbilical cord bound around us. So, looking to the mother. The mother has a body and a spirit. And she inherits from her parents the deception that she's a God, because it comes by inheritance. It's a state of the mind. It's not an action, it's a state. It's a door, okay? So, the child is conceived in the mother's womb, and it has the same inheritance from both parents. And now the question is, can the child live without the mother? Can the child live without a mother? How? No, it's conceived. You look into the conceived child inside the mother's womb. When a child is conceived, can it live without the mother?
No.
And outside as well not. But we'll look first to the inside. Who connects to whom? The child, on physical level, the placenta is part of whose? The placenta is part of the mother, of the child. Yeah? The uterus is the mother's. But the placenta that binds to the uterus of the mother is the child's possession. Because the child needs to connect to mother because it needs to take from mother. And it needs to take the physical elements. But until the child gets into the mother's uterus to connect, it's a few days that pass. And in that moment of conception, the spirit of the child connects to the spirit of mother. Because the body of the child needs the electrical impulse of the spirit of the child, the power to develop and grow. Without the power that the spirit of the child gives to its body, it's not able to function. So that's why in the moment of conception, the spiritual bond is immediately there. It's totally unconscious. It's by trust and faith the child is connected to the mother. And then it connects physically as well, and is how much dependent on the mother? 100%. By any choice? By no choice. So that's most important for us as Christians to understand. Dependency never is a choice. We can prove it here. A child has no choice to live independently, physically and spiritually from its mother. Now, let's go to the mother. Is the mother independent? By what? Does she need to eat mother or not? So is she dependent for her body? Does she have an umbilical cord? She has an umbilical cord to nature because she has a mouth and she needs to eat from nature. It's connected to nature. There's no way to live if you're not connected to nature. And why do you switch from mother to nature? Because mother becomes, at a certain place, insufficient. Because that place where you have to feed yourself must be always bigger than you are. Are you with me? So, when the child is small, the mother is bigger or smaller? Bigger. Now it grows. And at a certain time, mother becomes insufficient. That's why it needs to switch to a bigger source than mother. Okay? So, yes. So, because it cannot live anymore physically from its mother. But now, mother is bound to nature. To whom is mother bound spiritually? Does she have a spiritual bound or not? Does she or not? To whom? Would be good. The mother has the wrong connection. She's the God. Can you connect to God as a God? It's impossible. Yeah? So mother is connected to whom? To husband, to mother, to father, and of course to the child as well. Then, and it is connected to trust and faith, totally unconsciously and unwillingly. And now something happened during mother is pregnant. Outside of mother. Her husband cheats on her. Or her mother passed away. Any trauma that happens. What will happen to the child? What will happen to the child? He must take that information in because he lives from mother's spirit. And he puts that also in his own body. And if it's the wrong impulse, what happens to its body? So, tell me, how many people are guilty for what they do? The father who cheats on his wife, is he guilty? Does he have a choice? What choice? I tell you a story. A Christian story. Those are the best stories. There's a couple. They are married for 40 years. And they're marriage counselors in the church. And at the age of 70, he comes in the church, a seat is beside him empty. And a 38-year younger lady sits beside him. And miracles happen in churches. And the young lady needs a father, obviously, and a 70-year-old man gets a 32-year-old lady. Is like a great win or a small win? What does the man do? Does he have a choice? Pardon? He wakes up and what does he do? He forgets all his 40 years of marriage counseling because he got a gain. How can he lose the gain? And he has to put aside what? That what is lesser again, that is his older wife. Yeah? So he separates, he divorces, and marries the young one. Will he get sick? Never. He who loves never gets sick. Because he's in love. You can put on him viruses and bacteria or whatever you want, he will thrive. Because he's in a game. Who will get sick? Wife gets sick. She comes to my practice 3 years later. And so I get the story. So, is she happy? Does she really love her husband? Does she give him 100% freedom? Yes or no? No. She says, he's my husband. He's still my husband. And since she's a Christian, she says, it's written in the Bible. I said, which Bible do you have? He officially separated, he divorced, he gave you a letter of divorce, no? And now he's gone. And if you really love him, you shake his hand and say, I wish you all the best. Can you do that?
With love.
With love. I tell you, she gets sick and she will maybe die on her sadness of her heart because she neither can love her husband nor that young lady that stole her husband. So, we think we have choices. But as long as you're deceived, no matter what you do, it's all wrong. You know that? So that's why when things happen, they happen because you deceive yourself. So was this man 40 years faithful? If he was, why is he not still? Because you see, only when things come up, you see the crisis in yourself. Before you don't see it. And you have a positive crisis and a negative one. Now the positive never makes you sick, but the negative one killed you. Because the negative one is not seen as wrong. This gentleman knows what he does is wrong. That's why God doesn't need to give him as a result and what can. He's morally, he knows it's wrong. He has believed it for 40 years. He has taught it for 40 years. Does he need any consequences? No. Because he knows he's wrong. But his wife, does she know she's wrong? Yes or no? No, she's not wrong. She doesn't know it. And so God wants to save both, does he? And so that's why he allows those things to happen in churches. So that we see our hearts. Because what comes out was always there. There's nothing new that comes out. So when we consciously sin, it's just an evidence that we have no control. That's why I excuse everyone. Because if he does it or not does it, it doesn't matter. But it's better that he does it so that he sees his problem. So when he cheats on his wife, and his wife comes now and finds him, and now she loves him with divine love, does she give him freedom? Yes or no? Can she or can she not? Now, if she's not connected to God, how can she do it? Yeah, because we believe that connection is conscious. And you live in the church for 40 years, and it happens exactly what Jesus says to the people in his time. He says, these people come and serve me with their mouth, with their lips, but in their hearts, they're separated from me. Do you think they did that consciously? Do you think hypocrites are consciously hypocrites? Is that existing? There's no existing consciously hypocrites. All are unconscious because they're deceived. So everyone who does it without a choice because they have the wrong identity. Are you with me? What comes out was always there because it comes from the heart. Shall I teach you that Bible verse that Jesus is our creator and he just knows everything. And he had a habit, he didn't like to wash his hands. Yeah, there was no sanitizers around, but the Pharisees did the sanitizing, and Jesus was just ignoring that sanitizer. Yeah? Or whatever it was. It was there. And Mark 7. And then they come and ask, and Jesus, why did you not do it? So he says this. Verse 13. So 18. So he said to them, are ye thus without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatever enters a man from outside cannot defile him? Because it does not enter his heart. So when it doesn't enter his heart, the defilement can only be in the heart. Because it does not enter his heart, but in his stomach, and is eliminated, thus purifying all foods. Now those are things, yeah? And he said, what comes out of man, that defiles a man. For from within, out of the heart of man, proceed evil, what? Thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile a man. So where do we have our problem? Inside or outside? It's inside. Inside. And religion solves outside problems. Medicine solves outside problems. Psychology solves behavioral outside problems. And if you like the rich young ruler who never committed adultery and so on, but he did not give everything to the poor, how much difference does it make? There's no difference. So here we must understand this dependency. It's the most important thing to understand. We are spiritually dependent, unknown of it, and when things don't go like we need them, we protest. And the child protests in the mother's womb as well when it gets out of it, and it's in protests, unconsciously and unwillingly. So sickness does not appear because we want to be sick, but we don't know that we go against that what is not love, and that is forcing. Forcing. And force is the opposite of love. So the child comes out, the umbilical physical cord gets away. What happens with the spiritual cord? Till there. Who has to take it away? No. How can the mother take it away when the child does it? It's the child's dependency to mother. So it binds to nature automatically and involuntarily. Yes, when it is born, takes its first breath, because until then it took the oxygen from mother's womb. Now it takes it from nature. But what happens with the spiritual umbilical cord? And this is not known. The mother is the first umbilical cord, then the child binds to his father to take, binds to the grandparents, because they are also good sources for gain, then to the brother, to the friend, to the neighbors. Every relationship the child enters into is a dependency relationship at its entrance of the Spirit, not at the exit. And so, at the same time, the deception makes the child believe, I need to be loved. And so the child demands love from everybody. And if you don't give it, it will kill you. So, children are sweet things, but in their hearts. Yeah, and if you're a Christian or a believer, you demand love from God as well. And you believe God owes you love. There's a family, there are 5 children. They're all Christians. the brother dies in an accident in his 20s. 3 of the daughters remain in the faith. The one quits his faith to God and says, God killed my brother. He's not there. So she doesn't believe in God anymore. Because you demand what from God? Love, protection, and if he's not there for you to just fulfill your expectations, then you will punish him not going to church anymore or not believing in him anymore, believing that is an option. So this is the terrible situation of every human being. He binds to father, to brother, to spouse, in trust and faith to take. Which one remains the first? From all the relationships, what's the biggest one? It's mother. You never can compete with mother. Never try. I know it from my own experience with our 6 foster children. I was very jealous on them, whenever the children got in contact with their mother. It was an automatism in me. I could not abstain, because I said, they left you, I took you, now you're mine. But where was the children? Their hearts. Where is the connection? It's in the mother. And I saw this, how it works in teenage children. How strong the connection to mother is, you have no idea. So in this world, it's not the leaders of the world that's the strongest, but mothers. There is no stronger force than mother in this world. Because they would have in their hands the destiny of the humans. Because the way they are, if they would know their strength, the influence they have, they would be very paying attention to their inside. But they don't know it. They don't know that the child is connected to them in first thing. And then it's later to father and to the others. So you see this when people die. What do they say to when they go? Well, some say to heaven, but they go to their mother. And the older you get, the more your mother becomes again in your mind. It's an amazing thing to see. I have a 87-year-old patient who never wants me to talk to him about his relationship with the mind and the body. He likes me as a physician. He comes, he gets his treatment, but I could never enter his mind to tell him, look, you make yourself sick. And the last time he was with me a few weeks ago, I don't know how it came. We talked together because we are friends with each other, so to say, after so many years. And then he says to me, my mother died in 1964. And I says, well, I was born in 1964. Yeah? So his mother died 62 years ago. And then he says to me, he says, you may wonder, the older I get, the more I think on my mom. And I said, I don't wonder. I know it. That's the natural way. If never we change our heart, our mother will always be our destiny. It's not a conscious thing. That's why when a mother dies, even if she's 96 or 100, that person will suffer that it lost its mother. And I ask sometimes my patients, how long do you need a mother? That's what mothers would like. I had one mother said, I will move into the house of my daughter when she gets married, and I will have my room beside their bedroom. With the hole in between, of course. So, understand, you never get rid of your mother. Yeah? Because this is how how we function. It's unconscious to us. So, can this be healthy? Because we eat each other. You see, we have the same. You cannot eat from a source that is equal with you or smaller than you. It's impossible. You can only be connected to something that is bigger than you. And you see, on spiritual level, we're all connected, unconsciously and unwillingly, on each other. Is there any wonder why we have conflict? Why we need to control each other? Yes or no? Is there any wonder? No. This is unconscious to men. This is the cause of all the problems of men. This is the cause. So where does it come? From an unconscious that I believe I'm someone that I'm not, which makes me to connect because I cannot live without being dependent. So here is the law of inheritance. We have to go through that. I'm happy that the pastor told me at midnight I can finish. So every one of us has a father and a mother. Yes or no? Are there exceptions? No, there's no exception. And every one of us is half of it. Half of my spirit is from father, half is from mother, half of the body is from father, half of the mother is from father. That's law. No one can change that. And now the inheritance in the body doesn't make any great things. What we inherit in our spirit is that what matters. And that is, we inherit from the father the wrong identity and from the mother the wrong connection. That makes us to bind to humans, but separates us from God. And with this connection, you cannot connect to God at all, because you miss the connection. So if we could connect to God out of the state we are born, then we would not need a Savior who makes the connection again. Yeah? Because the connection is the issue. And so, sin is nothing else than the unconscious trust and faith in humans. It's totally unconscious. When it becomes conscious, it's just a proof for the unconscious. So, where did I get it? I got it from my parents. How did it happen? So Adam was created. God created one life, and out of that life he created Eve. So they're from one life, now they multiply in the same life. I put this question sometimes so that you get the idea. What comes first? The hen or the egg? What comes first? The hen or the egg? Now, whatever answer you give is wrong. It's the rooster who comes first. Because God created first the rooster. And out of the rooster, the hen. The life is in the rooster, not in the hen. And that's how the principle works. Yes? There is only life created. And that's the life of Adam. And when they deceive themselves, then they bound to each other, disconnected from God, and Adam's life is dead. Because disconnected from the source of life, how much can you live? There's no life. But we are living artificially. Yeah? It's like we are unplugged, but we have some battery. Yes? And this time of battery, we need to do something to get the cable back to connect to charge. Okay? So, if God would have not have a plan of salvation for us, we would all not be here. Yes, it would just have ended. But so, having a plan of salvation, He lets us be born in this dead life in order to give us a chance to get into the new life. Even Jesus was born in a dead life. So, how was the plan of salvation possible? Now, understanding that Jesus is God, we know that, we don't discuss that, but he added to his divinity humanity. So, according to the law of inheritance, the nature of Jesus is very simple. When we complicate it religiously, we get in trouble. But according to the law, as a human, what does he need to have? A father and a mother. And now, Jesus had whom as father? God as a human. And a wife, the mother is Mary. Yes? And this is the difference between us and Jesus. We are conceived by our parents from earth, and Jesus had a heavenly parents. For what reason did Jesus need to be conceived by God in Mary's womb? What was the reason that he had to? So he had to inherit the connection. So that's why he inherited from his father the right connection, so that in the moment of his existence, he connected to God and lived from his love totally unconsciously and unwillingly. Because the connection is inherited. You can only have it by inheritance. The action is yours. The trusting and the believing is your action. But the thing that, the state, the I, you inherit. This is why Jesus had to be born or conceived by his father. This is the first thing. But he also got the wrong connection from his mother, because that's in the inheritance. But he never used that connection because evidently maybe the father connection is dominant. Because if we take the same I from both parents, so the father's I is enough for us to connect us to humans. Okay? So I hope you understand that. So he had to keep in his whole life the connection. He could only sin by putting his own identity in doubt. If he would have ever doubted that he is a son of God, he would have failed. But he never doubted it, because the only way to be tempted is to put your own identity into question. He didn't do it. He kept this connection as a child, unconscious, and then as an adult, he was tempted consciously to believe he was forgotten by God. Yeah? So we find him in difficult situations, but he never did that. And we could also speak a lot of that. But that was the first task. He had to never get the connection away. And if you always keep the connection, how much sin can you do? There's no sin possible. But he had to also do another work. He had in himself destroy the wrong connection. So he had to cleanse his own spirit from that what he inherited. That's mostly not understood. I just read one Bible verse because midnight comes close. It's Romans chapter 3, verse 8 and 4. 3 and 4. It says this. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God did by sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and in account of sin, he condemned sin in the flesh. So where did he overcome? In himself. So did he work outside of him or inside of him? Inside of him, because the problem is inside. For what reason? It says that the righteousness required of the law might be fulfilled in us, who live not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. So the problem is inside, so inside it needs to be solved. So that's why Jesus, when he cried out, "It is finished," he resolved the first task to cleanse his spirit from this. How that surgery was, I cannot explain you, but I can explain it from the Old Testament, what it represents, and so on. And then he died completely because he had flesh and blood, and that this death life cannot inherit the kingdom of God. And so he resurrected as a total new being, a new creation that has a connection to God, that can never be disconnected. Is the firstborn Son of God, God's new creation, and that is what we call the second Adam, or the second life. So this is our inheritance by grace. And I explain that as a little bit further on. So, when Christ was conceived in this dead life, he got the right connection from his Father. That's why he connected to God. He got the wrong connection from his mother. He never used it. He crucified it. He crucified the whole life because this life was death, and only through death it could come to resurrection, to a new life. That's why it's important to understand there's only two lives: the life of Jesus and the life of Adam. And now, in the life of Adam, we are born without a choice. Or do we have a choice? No. But in the life of Christ, in the new life, it's by grace. Can we enter by law into that? No. Just by what? By choice. But before we enter into that new life, it must happen in our mind first. Jesus entered immediately into the new life. He created it, but it is available for everyone since the starting of the life of Adam, when it passed away. So here we have the only way for us to be saved is through faith, giving up the old life and entering the new life. But you enter it only in this kingdom of grace, which is just in our mind. Yes, by faith we give up and enter the new life by faith. That's how all people do it. And here is Paul after Christ. He also entered it. And here is Horst. He also was born after Christ. And by grace of God, on 7th June 2003, he entered from the old life into the new life. So I'm not yet into the new life itself. It's just in our mind, in our hearts. We need to be cleansed. And then comes later the transformation when we go into that new life. And Enoch went into it without seeing death. Moses through death. Elijah without seeing death. Paul through death. He knows future. He will resurrect. And Horst. And we have a choice maybe to be going into the new life without seeing death. Because I believe Jesus is coming in our time. So, to finish it up, the plan of salvation has one point in it. Since the outcast of Adam, if you see it on that border of the picture, then you see Cain and Abel, you see the altar, and then up you see the New Jerusalem. Every symbol that you see on this picture says one thing. Something needs to die. Something needs to die. And that's the deception that is in us. It needs to be crucified. And this is why God's wrath had a purpose on the cross. The lie had to be removed, and also the consequences of it with it. And Jesus resurrected as a new identity that he gives us. So biblical system that shows the need for exchange of life. At the altar, the sinner came, he gave his dead life to the lamb, and the new life of the lamb came to the sinner. The dead life had to be crucified, had to be killed, and by faith he went away saved. The circumcision is the same thing. Something needs to be cut away. It's not the foreskin, it's in the heart. You need to have a new life for that. It's through faith. Then there is the coat, the one that is dirty, and then you have the righteousness, the garment. You need to take that, it's through faith. Baptism is you die, your old life has to go down, and you have to have a new life. It's through faith. It's the Lord's Supper, the washing of the feet. You have a new, the old life is washed away, and you drink and eat the new life of Jesus. So all that are symbols for one and the same. So here is the cross, and Jesus is living before the cross. We have seen, connected to God by conception. He never sinned. Those are the red lines. He crucified the deception. He crucified the old life, and he resurrected in a total new life. It's a new creature. And here is me, and you. We all are born before the cross, and we are born with this evil nature, and this evil nature makes us dependent on humans. And I was bound as a human to whom? To my mother, to my father, but especially to my wife. And my destiny was my wife. So at the age of 39 years, I was desperate for love. From whom? From God or from a woman? From a godly, yes. Yes. That's a pastoral answer. So, I wanted to divorce to get the better one. But on the 1st June 2003, I had planned the separation on the 26th of July 2003. And on 1st June 2003, we had a counseling session. But in that counseling session, I said, I took my decision. The separation is planned. I quit the rent from the house. Everything was gone. I was even willing to give up the children because, children cannot replace that, what a woman can give you. Yeah? So that's why I was willing, like the former parents, The mother ran away with another man. For what? For love's sake. We always search love. But we just search it where? In the wrong place. And I was born an Adventist. I was grown up in the church. I was a preacher since I was 6 years old. I preached to my siblings because we played church. And I always was the preacher. And we have two elements in our cult. It was the sermon and the collection. That was most important. Yes, so you see, you learn that from childhood, what is important in church. And so I wanted to separate, and after this conversation, I got a thought, and that thought was, if you're going to keep my commandments, I will take care of your needs. That was a good idea, because I had only 3 needs from a woman. It's included that she should be beautiful, but I wanted that she should understand me, should listen to me. Not obey me. Listen. And if possible, every morning when she raises, to smile. Did I want the impossible? Did I have anything bad in my mind? But for whose sake? Was it love or selfishness? Yes. Was I aware of it? No, of course not. Because I was thinking all I want is good, and I don't get it. And now God says, if you keep my commandments, you will be satisfied. But I have the proof of 20 years that it doesn't work. And now you're challenged. And 7 days later, because God gives you always time to think, there is nothing to compare God with anything. And on the 7th June 2003, we were sitting in the afternoon together to take goodbye, and the gentleman was sitting in the left of me, and he suddenly asked me, and we were there also with our teenagers, we were 10 people in the room, he asked me, "Are you committed?" And I said, I was thinking he asked me what I am committed. And so without waiting to hear the whole sentence, I prepared my answer. And I said, "Yes." But he asked me, I said, "Are you committed to stay with your family?" And I said, "Yes." And in that moment, I got in trouble. Because everyone has heard it. The children got scared, I got scared, because they all knew it's over. We go home, what's here in America? We go home, and on the 26th of July, when the school is over, when the vacation comes, they go to their mother, the small ones, and I go to my mother, my wife would go to her mother, and we all start again with our mothers, because that's the best starting point. And so, that was the plan. And here I say something that is exactly the opposite of it. And you know, there are things you should never forgive. And this one I will never forgive to God. Because He brought me into a situation, He used my own misunderstanding to help me out of my situation. And now I have how much time to decide? Not much. What made me to jump after that yes and not taking it back, I cannot explain. But in the moment I jumped after it, my whole life changed. In the moment I gave up my wrong idea and by faith took that promise of God, yes, you will be satisfied. In that moment I got connected to God. And in the moment you get connected to God, you get satisfied. And my satisfaction was there. I was addicted to many things. They all disappeared without any battle. And He gave me a peace that never left me since then. Now, what happened with my past? For 39 years. And I get a new life for my past. So forgiveness means, and I cannot explain this because we have no time, I never sinned in the past. That's forgiveness. So every guilt disappears on the cross. Because, why can God give us a new life? Because we have no choice for the old. If we would have a choice not to sin, then it would be unrighteous to give us a new life. You come with me? Because you can only be righteous to get someone righteousness when he has no choice for the evil he does. Because if he has a choice for the evil he does, you just will tell him, you had a choice, why did you do the evil? So, God is righteous, and His righteousness is clear. We are all born without the choice to do anything good. And every good thing that we do, even taking 6 children, is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing. It was still out of selfishness. Yes, prompted by the Holy Spirit. He made all those happen. But I still was the same man. And I was jealous on the children. I was even beating some of them. I mean, yes, so not beating really, but I had this, the third born son was 13. And we were very similar. And he told me always the truth inside. And he once said to me, "You're not able to do the most simple things." Boom. Can you handle it? Cannot handle it. When someone tells you, you cannot do the most simple things. I was 34 years when I took the decision for the children to take. All people, even my mother, said I'm crazy. How can you say 6 children? Well, nothing easier than that. Yeah? So, we have no choice for our old life. That's why God gives us the choice of a new life by grace. And in that new life is how much sin? None. None. And if you killed your father in the past, and you change your life on the cross, who killed your father? Did you still kill your father? No. It's gone. It's on the cross. Jesus takes it all over, and he will judge it, because every deed needs to be judged. But you get freedom because you had no choice to not do it. Because your heart you were born with that steel heart. And then, if you have been abused, if you have been mistreated, how can you solve that? I have so strange cases in which girls want to take their life for 5 times in their life. She's 23 years old because she has been abused by her father and so on. And now she didn't succeed to kill herself for 5 times. And she suffers. She's in depression. How can she be saved? The most simple thing is to exchange her life on the cross. To get the truth that all that was done unto her was not done unto her, but unto God. And so she gives that up. She takes the new identity. She takes a new life. How much have you been abused in the new life? None. How can you have it? By faith. It's just by faith. Easy or not easy? I tell you, people say, but that's not the truth. Well, if you cannot believe it, you stay out of it. But this is the most greatest thing that God could offer to us, to give us a new life for free, because the old is rotten from its beginning, it's dead. You can only give it up in order to receive a new one. And since then, now I walk with God, but am I still free from deception? Am I now the most loving person in the world? It would be nice. I have one day I will be the most loving person that God has on earth. And every day I go to the cross, because every day I need to crucify those things that I see, not the acts, because you cannot crucify acts. You need to crucify a state. You need to let go of that deception that you play God. And that's a battle, and the more closer you get to the finish line, it becomes steeper, because it always gets more little things. You can overcome big things fast, but little ones, it's impossible. That's why most people don't believe in perfection. I believe in perfection. That means I believe that one day I am in the truth. Who am I perfectly? And then I can love all people. And then I'm connected to God completely through faith. Yes? And then when He comes, then He will put me into the new creature. That's reality. I have seen this already. Now coming to the end, the law and order of relationship for the spirit of man. We were made to take love in order to give love. Take from God, that's 100% dependency, and give to people is 100% independency. So we have a need of dependency and we have a need of independency. At the exit, you have independency. At the entrance, you have dependency. So if we know that we're a channel, we don't mix them up. Everything is fine. Our brain gets the good power, and disease can never happen. Now, in the deception, we believe we are a source. We doesn't need to take. We just give. We give to people. We give to God. And we want to receive from people and from God. That's salvation by works. And all people unconsciously live in the salvation by works, because they keep something in order to receive something. They give in order to receive, which is an illusion. It's non-existent, but we all live in it. And so I was born in this illusion. I did not have God at my entrance. I had my mother, my father, and later my wife, and then the children. And my first need is harmony, and I always want to receive harmony, to be listened to be understood, to be smiled to. I all want the good, but for myself to receive. I was not conscious about that. In reality, my first need is harmony, and unfortunately, my mother, my father, and my wife are not the most harmonious people. And now you eat and feed from them. What happens with you? What you take, you must give. And so what did my brain get? I was sick since my early childhoods, and still am in certain times when I mix up what I want to receive. So I cannot, so the day came, I gave up, I recognized my self-deception, I crucified that, I gave it up, and I put my parents away, put God at the entrance, and my parents and my wife at the exit. All interpersonal conflicts are resolved if this is the order of the law. Coming back to the children, who needs to convert first, mother or child? Mother needs to give up her deception that disconnects her from her people and connects her to the new connection to God. The same she teaches her child. Since when can she teach her child that? Very early she can do it, and then the child needs to do it by itself and connects to God. This is the right dependency, physically and spiritually, and there is no choice for that. So where is disease coming from? You come closer, you have luck, because I'm at the end. It is the result of the lack of love through the error which separates us from God. I am God, we give in order to receive. We need to crucify the idea that I'm a God and see that I'm a channel, and that's the new life of Christ. Through it, I only can connect to God. There's no connection to God except through Him, and then I can share with humans all this love. So, you have been challenged. It was it's my most content in 2.5 hours and 10 minutes. May God help us to understand it. And I don't want to finish here before I challenge you a little bit. I want, this is my goal, to become the most loving person God has on earth. I'm not yet there, but my wife is training me, and other people as well, so that I need in God to go to do that. So if you're willing to become also the most loving person God has on earth, I would challenge you at least to be behind me, So let's pray and end. Shall I pray? Can I pray? Our Father in heaven, we thank you that you made us to work with love. We thank you that in spite of us having an inheritance that binds us to human, you have made a new inheritance, a new life, by which, through faith, we can connect with you again and live from your love, from your word. So help us to understand these matters, how to implement them in our lives, and how to become more loving people, more understanding people, people who can endure all things, suffer all things, be patient with all things. We know that this is only possible with your love, and we need it. So help us to know how to connect and how to walk with you. Be a blessing for those around us, and also our bodies may be in a better shape. We thank you that you gave us this time. Bless us all according to your mercy and goodness. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.